Hey everybody, welcome to another episode of Reviewing Comics with me, your host, Alexander Turbin. This week we're going to be looking at an anti-hero, anti-superhero. Superheroes are bad and they're nothing but trouble and they have to be killed. And yes, I'm talking about Marshal Law. I will cover The Boys. It's a brilliant TV show now on Prime, and it's just had its final episode, and it's really pissing a lot of people off. And The Boys is about superheroes that are really not superheroes, and they're bad. Basically, that's pretty much the premise. But in 1989, I believe this is in 89. Is in 89. There was a book called Marshal Law, and its premise was that all of the superheroes were bad and they had to be exterminated. And it was hypersexual, hypertension, hyperviolence. It's basically The Boys, precursor to The Boys. I think that because it's Pat Mills and Kevin O'Neill, I bet they were buddies with Garth Ennis. Garth Ennis is one of my favorite writers, as is Pat Mills and O'Neill. They're a couple of my favorite creators. And there has to have been an influence from Marshal Law to The Boys. And so if anybody out there really loves The Boys and you want to see its precursor, its predecessor, then I would definitely check out Marshal Law because it's a beautiful book. But before we get into that, I'd like to show you some of my own work, which is not as hyper sexualized or violent, or it sometimes is. Who am I kidding? It's Random Access. It's a 12-page full-size, sometimes color, but recently I've been going to black and white to kind of catch up and still maintain a monthly schedule. You can pick these up at patreon.com/AlexTurbin, or you can just go to my website, alexanderturbin.com, and you can find these and Mutandis and Forlorn, all kinds of other stuff that I've done in the past. Or you can just check me out on Instagram at AlexTurbin04401. And so, yeah, that's all of my stuff. And I would appreciate all of the support that you guys give me. And I do appreciate all the support you guys give me. And thank you very much. So Marshal Law, 1989. This was I also have the lights down a little bit because it's super shiny. All of the pages are nice and glossy. It was one of the first glossy, regular size comics, as it was an epic from Marvel. And I said it's created by Pat Mills and Kevin O'Neill. This is issue number 6. I had some of the other issues in my hand, and I don't know what happened to them. I was going to do this one because this is the original series, and there's also a bunch of different series. They went to Dark Horse and maybe Image too. There's actually a crossover between Marshal Law and the Savage Dragon, which is pretty cool. But there's a lot going on. I'm going to try not to ruin the whole storyline because this is issue 6 of 6. And I had number 1. I obviously have had all of them because it's one of my favorite comic series of all time. But owning comic shops and selling online, you tend to sell your comics. So in the intro beginning, there's a picture of Vietnam War, and there's a quote: "The war is not working. It means it's the end of the giant. It means it's the last days of Superman." This has a lot of things going for it, going through it. I think maybe I might just kind of go through the art and go through the story without ruining too much, because if anybody hasn't read all of the first story arc of Marshal Law, I highly, highly recommend it. And so I'm going to try not to ruin too much. But it's basically the storyline is that Marshal Law is this Punisher-like character. And what happened was the United States was in a war in, I believe it was in Mexico and in South America stuff. And I don't know if they were losing or they just decided that they wanted super soldiers. So basically, the superheroes were given superhero serums, and it kind of messed them up physically and mentally. A lot of them like thousands and thousands and thousands, hundreds of thousands of them, went to war and were given this superhero serum. And it wasn't like the Captain America serum where they just got strong. No, they got superpowers. They got super strong. They got fly, everything like that. So it really messed them all up, and the government didn't really know what to do with them. So they kind of set up a superhero program where they turned all of these super soldiers into superheroes. And but what happened was, of course, they were hyper violent, and just like in reality. And the soldiers come home and they have PTSD, and sometimes they cause more trouble than they really mean to. The superhero soldiers came back and they really got into their superhero complex. There were no real super villains for them to fight, so they just kind of turn into their superhero-ness. And one of the things about martial law, and that's a little different than the boys, is that it's very homoerotic. I know there's homosexual things in the boys, tendencies or whatnot, but this is super, like the whole thing about martial law wanting to kill all superheroes. He's very much like the Butcher. Think of the Butcher only dressed as martial law, and you pretty much have martial law where he just wants to kill every superhero. I'm not going to say why, but he has a backstory, and so he just wants every superhero dead, pretty much. And he's got the Punisher type of psyche where he can do pretty much whatever he sets his mind out to. He's got one of his superpowers is that he's just so one single-minded, in that when he sets out to do something, he does it, which is very Frank Castle-ish. So like in The Boys, and you have Homelander. In this, you have Public Spirit, who was the Superman of the war. And I think he was a Superman before the war. I think he was the first one that got the serum, and he actually goes out into space when the war starts. And so that's one of the reasons that martial law hates him so much. So the whole book is, like I said, it's very, very much like The Boys. But there's a big anti-war, I won't say rhetoric, because rhetoric is kind of a negative way of something, but it's an anti-war statement, and really it's a combination of war, superheroes, homosexuality, regular sexuality, deviance, and it's got it all in there exactly like The Boys, only from 1989, and it's toned down a little bit. I mean, it's slightly. I mean, you can see Public Spirit puts his fist through a police officer's chest, and I believe he's running away from martial law at this point. So he's kind of skittish that way, a lot like Homelander. I think a lot of the similarities between Homelander and Public Spirit are that they really need appreciation, they need approval, they need love from their fans. And look at the erotica, the sexualization of Public Spirit and whatnot. And they actually have trading cards, which I bet The Boys has. I wonder if they have real life Boys trading cards. That would be kind of cool and kind of disturbing at the same time. But I guess these trading cards, because this is a paper that a character in the book has written, that martial law is kind of going back and looking at to figure out the Public Spirit and kind of get into his head a little bit. And you have one set of cards, which is all of the good things that the Public Spirit did: conquering the stars, no more slums, rescuing a nun, rescuing a dog. Same kind of public relations that The Boys has going for them, and Vought Industries. So really, the government has a little bit less of a, well, no, in The Boys, it's not the government, it's Vought Industries that has a kind of a monopoly on superheroes. And in this, it's not the government. The government doesn't have a monopoly on superheroes, but it actually, the government wants them all dead because they realize that they created a monstrosity with the superheroes and they don't really know what to do about it. So they kind of hire Marshal Law. If not, I don't know if hiring is the appropriate word. He's a police officer, which is kind of like Savage Dragon, where he's a superhero police officer, which is really cool. But he also works with the government to take down superheroes. And he does. I mean, he basically does. I'm not going to go into anything else about the story and how it unfolds. I just really encourage everybody to go out and read it and buy it. And if I get the number one issue again, which I probably will, I'll go through that and really go into a deep dive into it. So let's go and look at the writing. As I do with all of the comics, I don't really do that so much with Marvel and DC stuff because, I mean, it's professional stuff, and I'm not going to grade it the same way that I would an Eternity comic or an Adventure comic or something like that. But I will have a few things to say about Pat Mills' writing. Pat Mills and Kevin O'Neill did a lot of stuff before. I believe that they did Nemesis Warlock, which is in outer space. It's basically the same thing. There's lots of corruption on a planet, and there's like Nazis and stuff like that. Pat Mills does a lot of corruption in the government, corruption in big business. It's just basically superheroes fighting corruption or superheroes being controlled by corruption, and there's just lots of symbolisms and metaphors and analogies and whatnot that he puts in all of his writing. And like I said, especially in Marshal Law, there's so many metaphors and analogies and I don't know what you would call it. It's just basically he's putting a mirror up to 1989 and adding his little political slant to it, much like Garth Ennis did with The Boys, and much like the Amazon Prime show is doing with The Boys, even jacked up a little bit more than this. So, like I said, there's a lot of anti-war, maybe not anti-superhero, but anti-government turning people into superheroes and using them and then dumping them into society, or just dumping them in general and really not giving a crap about them, which is really what the government has done a lot for our soldiers that have gone overseas and then come back. They oftentimes don't get the medical attention that they need, or the psychological attention, or anything like that. And really, that's the whole point and the whole concept of the whole series, is that these people have become ultra violent, ultra powerful, and that's another concept in the book, is because they can't feel pain. I believe that one of the aspects of the serum that they're giving is that they can't feel pain. So I believe that's a line in this book, or is that Watchmen or something? I believe it's in this one of these first issues, or this first issue completely, that they can't feel pain, so they have to inflict pain, which is a great line. So I mean, there's lots of cool fight scenes, obviously, and Marshal Law looks really cool in his black leather and his chains and his barbed wire. He's got like barbed wire on his arm. You can't see it. Like his left arm has barbed wire on. I should have I drew a picture of him a little while ago that was pretty good and showed all of his arms and stuff. So yeah, the writing, like I said, is wonderful. It's fantastic. Lots of introspection, a lot of first person talking and first person thought. These not the word balloons, but the dialogue inside his head explains a lot of things about what he's thinking. And it's definitely from a first person's perspective, but then it alternates between third person and whatnot. The doctor here is the creator of the super serum, and he's doing these psychological tests and stuff. And he's got a great voice. They all have great voices. I love when characters are seamlessly. You don't have to use necessarily jargon or anything like that. I think really maybe Neil Gaiman is one of the best at that. Alan Moore is certainly super great at doing the dialogue and just transitioning from one person to another. And it's not even, like I said, it's not even their jargon or their the way they talk. You know, you don't have to throw a sugar in like Rogue has every time she's in a comic, and that's to show her Southern dialect. It's more complex than that, and very few writers really know how to shine on the dialect of a character and not make it sound either silly or trite or anything like that. So here's the Marshal Law with the barbed wire on his arm. So many of these superheroes have like slogans and sayings on their costumes and stuff. So that's pretty much Pat Mills' writing. I really enjoy it. I love pretty much all of the stuff that he's done that I've read, and I really highly suggest you get all of the Pat Mills stuff you can. Especially I'd like to go back and get some of that 2000 AD stuff, because that's where he started, I believe. Same as Garth Ennis and Alan Moore and all those guys. That British invasion thing, which is really cool. But Kevin O'Neill's the artist, and he passed away recently, and which is one of the reasons that I'm going through this book. Did he pass away? I'm not sure. I'm pretty sure he did. But anyway, I have a love-hate relationship with Kevin O'Neill's art. It's not beautiful. He's not a beautiful artist, and it's very hard to get into an artist that their art isn't beautiful. You really have to delve deep into it. You can't just say, oh, this is beautiful art, so I love it. You have to look at some of the symbolism and some of the other stuff that's going on. I mean, sure, he has great emotions and he has great poses and stuff, but there's also kind of a flatness quality to his art, and there's kind of a meanness or sharpness to his art as well. I would liken that also to Bill Sienkiewicz, but he actually can add some colors and some other distorting effects to make things actually lighthearted in a dark way. Whereas Kevin O'Neill kind of didn't do anything lighthearted at all. And there's something very creepy and very mischievous in his art. And that's why he's such a great fit for Marshal Law and for Extraordinary Gentleman and all of the other stuff that he's done, because he's not really, he doesn't care. He does what he does, and he picks projects, and he has an eye and a way of doing things that's a little bit darker and a little bit more off center. I would say is just what the key word might be for him, is he's off center. Or I don't know. I'm not entirely sure how to explain his smiling characters. He's always got these smiling characters that are, they're not smiling because they're happy. They're smiling because they're in pain, they're angry, they're mentally messed up. He's got, even without showing the teeth, this guy, Public Spirit, he's smiling, but he's all messed up. He's in the head. There's nothing right about him. And that goes for almost all of his characters, where there's an anger to it. There's an angry aspect to Kevin O'Neill's art that I love. I mean, I love it. And but you have to acknowledge what's there, and not subvert your eyes to it, because that's what makes it great. If every artist was just pretty and snowflakes and sunflowers and rainbows, it would be very, very boring. But there's a certain beauty to his art. I mean, for sure. Especially, I'm not going to say especially, but the colorist, which I guess Kevin O'Deal did. I really love the colors. It's very toned down and it's very simple, but it doesn't make like I said. There's a flatness to it. He's not trying to make everything three-dimensional. He's just giving it a little bit of oomph, which is what I really, really appreciate. So anyway, here's Marshal Law, the forefather of the boys. And like I said, I highly recommend this. I would give this a 10 out of 10. It's one of the great comics of any generation, I feel, and it went into a different direction than anything else was at the time. Even though, yes, superheroes were dark and gritty at the time, this was not just dark and gritty. It was also an examination of what regular people really would be with powers. And that's pretty much what it is. Regular people who are soldiers, which really is a dichotomy in itself. So it's a beautiful book. I love it. I highly recommend it. It's 10 out of 10. If you guys like this kind of content, and if you're new to the channel, please consider subscribing and hitting the notification bell. And if you guys really like this kind of content, I really appreciate a thumbs up. I think that's one of the big things for YouTube's algorithm for getting this out into the into the ether. And but I really appreciate you guys watching, and I always look forward to doing these. And please let me know if you've read Marshal Law and what you thought of it. And if you haven't read it, please tell me you're going to go out there and get yourself a copy. And it'll lead you down a wonderful road, because there's lots of different storylines that have martial law in the thick of it. But it's a great book, great artist, great writer, overall a fantastic read, and I highly recommend it. So thanks for watching again, and I will see you guys next time.